Hey guys, hope everybody's doing fantastic today. In my last video, I talked about how important it was for you to know your monthly expenses so you can know how much to save for retirement. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to survive a recession on a commission-only job. This also applies to small business owners who have to manage their cash flow to make sure that they can survive month after month. In the financial independence community, we always talk about having an emergency fund. And what an emergency fund is basically is having money put aside for the just in cases. As an example, you lose your job and you can't find a job for a couple months. So if you have an emergency fund, then you don't have to really scramble to find another job because the bills will keep coming and you have to pay them. So on average, the rule of thumb is to have 3 to 6 month runway of an emergency fund. So as an example, again, if you lose your job, then you'll have a few months to really settle down and trying to find the next job for you. In a commission-only sales job, it's really like you losing your job every other month. And the reason why I say that is because you have peaks and valleys in commission-only sales. So some months you're doing fantastic, and the next month you do terrible and you have no income. So it's like you lost your job in a way. So as a salesperson, what I've done in the past is basically instead of having an emergency of 3 to 6 months, my emergency fund is 24 months. The reason why it's 24 a month for me is because, as an example, a recession comes. And studies have shown that a recession usually lasts between 18 months to 22 months. So if you have a 24-month emergency fund, then you don't really have to stress out if you lose your job or your industry. So for me, at the beginning of each year, I have 2 years of expenses saved up in a cash account or a cash accessible account. And so I don't have to stress about how I'm going to pay my bills for the year. And each money that I make, then I put that money aside also to where I replenish the months that I'm losing by paying off my expense of that 1 year runway that I put aside. So my goal is by the end of each year is to have 1 year of expenses replenished. So at the beginning of next year, I'll have 2 years of expenses already in a cash account, knowing that I have enough money put aside for 2 years where I don't have to stress for 2 years. So I have 2 years basically to, I guess, find a job if everything goes belly up, or 2 years to replenish another 2 years. And that's how it has worked for me. So when COVID hit, as an example, I didn't really have to stress out because I knew that I had 2 years of savings put aside. I'm telling you guys, once you have that 2 year runway, you have such a big peace of mind of not having to worry of where your money has to come from to pay for any of your bills. So it keeps your stress levels super low. And then that's when whatever you do now as a job becomes, in a way, fun, because now you don't have to really stress if you don't do well because you have that 2 year emergency fund. Remember in my last video, I talked about the 4% rule, how that's a nice gauge to know how much you have to have saved in the stock market, as an example, to know how much you need to pay for all your bills. So if I have a 2 year runway, that means that I don't have to touch my invested assets for 2 years. So that gives it 2 years of compound interest of my money growing and getting bigger and bigger without having to touch it, because I have the 2 year runway, 2 year emergency fund for me. When you think about it, this strategy is actually making me money, because using the 4% rule again, at $1 million, 4%, that's $40,000 that I didn't have to take out. And that $40,000, if it grows at a 10% yearly return, that's $4,000 that I just made because of my saving strategy of having a 2 year runway. Please comment below and let me know your thoughts about my strategy, and if that strategy can work for you, if you have a different strategy. And also, please subscribe so I can make more of these videos to share my journey.